Good?
Yeah, you're
We're live? Great. Hi guys, what's up? Welcome to my first YouTube live stream. I've never done this before, never gone live. So hopefully we won't have any technical problems. If we do, I apologize in advance. It's cool to see everybody coming in and chatting and like saying where you're from. That's really cool. So keep the chatter going, and I'm gonna have my laptop nearby so I can kind of keep up with the comments a little bit. I won't be able to answer like every question or anything, but if you do have a question, feel free to ask, and Chris is kind of like moderating the comments a little bit, so yeah, we'll try to like keep track of everything. Hello. Yeah, it's kind of cool to see where everybody is coming in from, because obviously this is a worldwide audience, and right now we're sort of facing this worldwide problem, but what is really cool is that we're all in it together, and so many of us are in the middle of a week or 2 weeks of social distancing, so it's just like gets a little bit bored being around the house, gets a little bit boring, so that's why we thought we would do this live stream so that we can kind of hang out, do some painting together. I'm going to be using watercolor paints today if you want to follow along. I get so many requests for an art tutorial, especially watercolor in real time, and this is my chance to do that because obviously I can't speed it up. So, you know, it's not as exciting when it goes in real time because painting takes a while and it's kind of slow, but that's what we're going to do today. You'll get to see how long it really takes me to put a piece together, which I think is kind of interesting. And I'm just going to pull my laptop a little closer here so I can read the comments. Oh, you guys are so sweet. So many nice comments. Thanks, guys. I'm just going to read all these nice comments. Just kidding. Okay, so we're going to do some watercolor painting together. If you want to paint along with me, what we're going to use today is, let me just sort out my super cool little split screen here. So what we're going to use today is some scrap paper. I just have some computer paper. That's what I'll do the design on. Grab a pencil and eraser. Maybe a pen is good to have as well for working out your design. Then you'll need a piece of tracing paper, but if you don't have tracing paper, don't sweat it. You don't absolutely need it, and we'll talk about that later. And then we'll work on watercolor paper. I'm using hot press paper today, and I get a lot of questions about that. Cold pressed is a little more textured, a little more toothy. It tends to absorb the water really nicely. Hot pressed is a little smoother. The paper fibers are a little bit denser, and so the water doesn't seep in quite as well in quotations, but I really like those little happy accidents that happen on hot press paper, and I like the smooth texture. So I'm using hot press, but you could totally use cold press. You could use rough paper, which is at the other end of the spectrum, super toothy. And then grab any set of watercolor paints that you have. I just got a fresh set of watercolors from Derwent. It's their little pocket set, and I really like this little guy. You can see it's like, oh, it's so nice and white. It will be stained after today, but it looks so crisp right now. So I have just a simple little pocket set, so nothing special. You can see it's not like it's an enormous color selection or anything. And then I've got 2 glasses of clean water, and I just tend to use one for cool colors and one for warm colors. Some paper towel for blotting, you know the rundown, the usual stuff. And then I've got a selection of pointed round brushes. Most of my painting, I use like the number 2 and 3. Those are my Goldilocks brushes. Every time I'm on Instagram or Pinterest, I see artists using much bigger brushes. I've never really gotten the hang of like using a number 6 or 8 or a larger round brush. But just use whatever works for you. Synthetic brushes are great as well. These are animal hair, but synthetic I often use. They just tend not to last quite as long. So you can grab your supplies. We're going to talk just for a moment. If anybody does want to grab supplies and paint along with me, we'll just chat for a second because I have some fun stuff I want to share with you guys. Okay, first of all, are you ready for this? This is how I do social distancing Shada style. This little friendo right here. I just made this owl. This is a free pattern on on Pearl Soho, and so yes, this is what I've been working on, knitting, trying to just take it easy, not stress too much, and do something creative. I've been doing a lot of painting as well, but I've also been doing a lot of knitting. I finally finished this guy, so I have a bunch of prizes that I want to give away today, and the first prize that I have is, we've got just a little prize pack here. Ooh, look at me go with my keyboard changing up the picture. Okay. So get my head out of there. This is a little notebook with a cover design by me. I've got my favorite white gel pen and a whole bunch of stickers and sticky notes and stuff. So I'm going to give this to the first person who can tell me where I live. Like, where am I filming from right now? The name of the city. The name of the city that I live in. Let's see, we're watching. Anyway, whoever... I know there's a little bit of a lag, so we'll give it a second. Whoever can name my place where we are living, where Chris and I live, where we're filming from, you win this little prize pack. Taylor, get out of there. That's my sister. Oh, somebody got it. I saw Charlottetown. Okay, Chris, can you tell us the first person who said Charlottetown?
I will try.
Chris is looking at the comments like, oh, no. But we'll figure it out and we'll tell you who won that one. And, okay, but that's just a little prize. I have a really good little contest that I want to play. So,
the city?
The city. Whoever named the city first. Chris is sorting through 900 comments. Quickly, quickly. Just kidding. Okay, we'll tell you in a second, but first... let's talk about the other contest. So, my little friendo here, oh, I forgot to change the picture. So, my little friend, this guy, I want to do a little contest naming him, who, pitch a name for my owl. And we'll choose a winner at the end. And for that little giveaway, I've got a really good prize pack, I think. So I've got some watercolor paper, as well as these 4 watercolor disc sets from Micador. They're really good quality paints. They're an Australian brand. They sent me a bunch of stuff. And so I've saved these to give to a viewer. And then I've got some water brushes here as well. So there's a nice watercolor prize pack. Pitch some names for our little friend the owl, and
choose the best at the end.
Yeah, Chris will sort out the 1,000 names. And we'll choose one at the end. Okay, so who won the...
Okay, so the first person to say Charlottetown, who was not your sister.
Yeah, Taylor.
Was, and I apologize if I don't pronounce this properly, it was Mamatha Suryadevara.
Okay.
So you won, and we will put your email in the comments, and they can email you to reclaim the prize.
Yes. Mamatha, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Chris is going to put my email in the video description or in the comments, and just email me and we'll send this to you as soon as we possibly can send it. Yay. Okay, cool. So I think that's probably, I'm going to switch that back. I think that's hopefully given everybody enough time to, if you wanted to, grab your paints and stuff. And if you do want to paint along, we better get started because I can just talk forever. I literally could ramble all day. So yes, let's do some art, shall we? Oh wait, I have one more thing to ramble about actually. My bad. I just created a coloring page. Ta-da! Ta-da-da-da. So it's the theme of the coloring page is the flowers, a year in flowers, because that's what we're doing. If you're a fan of the channel, that's what we're doing in our bullet journal this year, is all the birth flowers. So I did a little coloring page, and it's just something that I wanted to do to, you know, just in some other way say that I'm thinking about you guys, and I know right now is a really tough time, not just in terms of boredom, but obviously in terms of the stress levels around health and careers and employment and community. All of that right now is a lot, and so this is just one little thing that I can do. So I just designed this super recently. It's a fun coloring page, and we've already posted that on our Patreon site. So it's free for everybody. You don't have to be a patron. So you can grab that on Patreon. It's there now, or just head over there after today's video. Chris will link that in the video description as well, but it's patreon.com/ShadaCampbell. So it's just one little thing, a coloring page that you can, you know, spend a little time on and have fun with, I hope. I know right now it's just a really weird time, and Chris and I are really lucky. Like, our life really hasn't changed that much. We're still working from home, but just within my own family, my sister and her husband live outside the country, and even though that's super cool and fun, I think right now it's just scary for anybody who's away from home. So for anybody who's not with their family right now, I send my love to you. And my brother and his fiance are both in the medical profession, so they're sort of on the front lines. So, you know, that's just within my own family. I see like how this is affecting people, and so because Chris and I are so relatively unaffected right now, we're trying to do everything we can to just put out extra content. Some of my favorite podcasts didn't put out a podcast last week, and I was like, this is not the week. I need content. So we're still going to continue with our Tuesday and Friday videos, of course, and then we're gonna work in some of these live videos. And I'm also running quite a few giveaways on Instagram. There will actually be another one this afternoon. So if you aren't following me on Instagram at @ShadaCampbell, definitely go do that, because I got a whole bunch of good stuff to give away. I'm just reading some of the owl names. So good. Okay, so we are going to start our project. For anyone just joining in, free Year in Flowers coloring page on Patreon. We're doing some watercolor painting together. We're giving away some stuff, and if you can name my owl, then you can win a watercolor prize pack, and we'll pick our favorite name later in the video. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is, when I do a watercolor painting, like to begin with a plan. Not everybody does that. I see a lot of loose florals, and I'm just not like a loose kind of gal. That sounds wrong, but I'm just very, like, I like to plan my art, and so I always start with a plan, which you probably know. Let's switch this so you can see a little better. And we'll make that a little smaller. Still figuring out my tech. Okay, so what I like to do is start with a little guide, and for a floral watercolor, I find it really easy to do like 3 flowers. 3 is a good number. It kind of makes this triangle. Ranunculus, I like that. For an owl name, ranunculus, that's good. Okay, so it's nice to put the circles about the size of the flowers that you will make, and then we might do some leaves in here. Maybe we put like a longer flower, a more vertical flower, whoopsie, a more vertical flower over here. So the guide does not have to be super detailed or anything. Let's say we'll do this as a kind of rose maybe. This is going to be some sort of loose vertical thing. Let's do like a kind of like an anemone here. And then maybe we'll make this an anemone as well. Now remember, if you place the stamen in the middle and then all the petals are the same size, you're going to get this nice big sort of flat open flower that is a little bit more, maybe more two-dimensional. If you've got your circle and you place that stamen low, all of a sudden you start inputting your petals. The bottom ones are very short and it kind of looks like it's blooming up and out. And then we'll put in some extra petals there. Like something like that. I think that could be kind of fun. I mean, this is interesting for me because I'm working it out on screen. Usually I would do all this prep. Let's try one more. I'm going to place the flowers, and then for this one I'm actually going to do stems, joining them. Again, place that stamen in the middle, put your petals in, and there you go. Place that stamen low, put the petals in, and it looks like it's blooming up and out. Let's put in some leaves. And let's put in some smaller flowers, or like little leaves or something. Something like that I think could be quite pretty. I think the first one I made is nice, but it might just take too long. And since I am already so chatty, I don't know. Okay, so you can see how quickly that came together though. Like you could do a sort of triangle of flowers with some leaves and put some little leaves and little flowers, sort of enclosing everything, bordering. I think I'm going to do something just a tiny bit simpler so that I'm not like, this is a 4-hour live stream. And so I'm just basically doing 2 flowers. We've joined them with a stem. Actually, I'll quickly go over this in pen so you can see, but we've got the 2 flowers there. I'm adding extra petals, making that one really big, and then we're adding in a bunch of large leaves, and we might do some smaller leaves. Okay, so next step is we are just going to trace. So grab your tracing paper and throw that on top. And then again, this doesn't need to be a very detailed thing. You can just kind of quickly go over everything, but this does give you the opportunity to think about detail and to think about changing things up. If you thought, oh, you know, that stem could be over a little bit more to the right, then it's really simple to do that kind of change right now. So as I always say, tracing allows you to change what you don't like and keep what you do. It allows you to refine your image, your artwork, your design. So let's put in some more petals.
Someone asked what size pen you're using.
Oh, what size pen? This is the Pigma Micron 05. And honestly, I just chose that one because it's a bigger nib and I didn't want it to be too delicate. I just wanted it to show up really well on camera. But just use whatever you've got handy. If you've just got an old Sharpie or something, that'll work fine, because this is really just about, you know, capturing the design and making sure you can see it well, and just take a second and work it out. So there, I'm just putting in some leaves, and then those leaves at the bottom were quite a good size. So over here I'm just adding some smaller ones. And it's always nice to think about a contrast of size. You know, you have some medium-sized leaves, you have some smaller leaves. Just by making little simple decisions like that, you can add a nice amount of detail to the piece. Okay, so that's a pretty simple little floral design. And so now that we kind of have a plan, which I like, we can transfer this onto our watercolor paper. Now you can do that with with graphite transfer paper or carbon transfer paper, which you've seen me use on the channel many times. I think what I'll do is just today I'm going to flip that over. Make sure you have a piece of paper between that and the watercolor paper. And then I'm just going to put a layer of graphite on the back. So this is kind of like just a fun little step. And this is good too, because if you're at home and you're not going to the store and you're like, well, I don't have graphite transfer paper, not to worry, because all you need is a pencil. And if you don't have tracing paper, which I mentioned before, if that's not something you have at home, just use the computer paper, work out your design, put the graphite on the back, and then transfer it just via the computer paper or scrap paper right onto the watercolor paper. All right. This is usually the part that we would speed up in the video. Okay. I think I got it. Let's put that aside. We'll flip that back over. I think that looks pretty good. And you can tape it in place. I think I'll just put my eraser there. I'm going to take a nice sharp pencil and we'll just go over everything. So the nice thing about not using the carbon paper is that you can erase your pencil really easily. So if you're doing really lightly colored, delicate flowers and you can't have any dark lines, then the pencil is much preferred, much better. Okay, just go over the stem. Sometimes I just put a line where the leaf is going to go. I won't actually draw the whole leaf just because it's just too large. It's just, I like to work the shape out in paint, not so much in pencil. So in that way, I prefer a little bit of a looser approach. Okay, let's do these petals. Okay.
Size mechanical pencil are you using?
Oh, size mechanical pencil?
Yeah.
The lead is 0.5, I think. Is that?
Yeah.
I can't even
But
remember.
any 0.5 from like a dollar store.
Yeah, it's just from, I picked up this mechanical pencil at a stationery store, but it's just the same sort of size, and lead is like a big pencil pack that you would get at the dollar store, and that's where my lead is from, like just a dollar store pack. All right, let's pick that up. It's probably really hard to see, but it actually did quite a good transfer, and there's just a little bit of extra graphite on there that we'll want to get rid of, but for the most part came through looking really nice. And now we are ready to mix up some paint, so that's kind of fun. Okay. Whoops, cool. That's great. Okay, let's mix up some of our paint. So I want to, first things first, I'm going to paint some pink flowers, and so I am going to mix up a little bit of a very light pink, like super light. So I'm going to get lots of water on my brush. There's this nice magenta in this Derwent set, so I'll get that going. You can see that okay? Yeah, there we go. And I am going to mix a little bit of white in, so I get the brush wet and clean again, and then I'll bring that white over here. A lot of watercolor artists don't like to use white, but I do because I sort of like those pastels. Some people feel it's better just to lighten with water. That's one approach. Okay, let's put a little orange in there as well because I don't want it to be too pink. I want this very mellow, very light color. That's looking good. Thank you guys so much for all the sweet comments. I really appreciate all your kind words, and I'm so happy that you're finding inspiration here, or a little bit of comfort, or just a little bit of entertainment. I think we all need just to stay busy right now and not get sort of bogged down in what's going on. Okay, we've got this super light, very delicate color. And let's take a crack at mixing up a nice natural green. I'll show you the palette here. Okay, so for the green, I am going to mix, I'm going to take this darker green, mix it a little bit with the lighter green. And that just looks so bright. Have a sip of tea. And
someone's asking about like why specifically you mix each color together. Just a little elaboration.
why mix
Like
each?
how do you get the gray muted colors that you get?
Oh, okay. Can you read the comment?
Oh, let me see if I can find it.
Chris was just saying someone's asking about like how to mix the colors, or I mean, if you're asking about muted colors, here the green is a good example. So we've got this very bright green grass, emerald green, primary or secondary green. And then if we want to make it a little more natural looking, well, red is opposite green on the color wheel. So we could grab a little bit of red and we could mix that in. And that will give us a more natural sort of browny green, sort of dead green. And we could also mix in a little bit of brown. I definitely need more paint in here so that I've got a nice rich
Did you saw
color.
that comment?
It's okay, I think.
Could you explain which colors you mix and why? I always love your grayish colors.
Okay.
Selah.
Cool, great question. And I'm trying to explain today sort of how I'm mixing these ones up. And the idea is I'm a bit of a messy mixer, so I tend not to use the colors straight out of the palette. So like I said, the green is a good example. Mix a little brown in there to deaden it a bit. I don't know, I'm trying to think of a better word to mute it. I mix a little red in because red is opposite green. And so by mixing in red, we get this really natural looking green. Now, because I'm doing a plant, I feel like I need a little bit of yellow in there to make this green a little warmer. Yellow will warm our green up, blue will cool it down. And I'm thinking that's looking pretty good. I had a piece of scrap paper here, making a mess. Okay. So this is just my little palette guide, but if you have some scrap with you, that's always nice because you can kind of test out your color, and that green looks a lot more natural than that one that's in the palette. At least I think so. And I did that by mixing in a little bit of brown, a little bit of red. Then I thought, oh, I kind of wanted a bit warmer, so we picked up some of the yellow. So having a bit of scrap paper there, I think that's a good idea because you can test out your colors and make sure you've got it looking the way you want. All right, so let's start our piece by painting some of the larger leaves. Mix in just a little more red. Sometimes I like to take my colors right to the edge, like how much red can I mix in before it's not even green anymore? And let me get my big face out of the way, shall I? There we go. Okay, so now we've got our green here. Let's start by getting lots on our round brush, and you guys know the drill. You're gonna run the belly of the brush across the page, and then we'll do 2 large brush strokes. And then if you need to, you can use the tip of the brush, like I'm doing here, to refine the shape of the leaf, to change it up a little. Maybe you add a little stem. I don't think I'll add a stem because I'll do the stem in brown. So there we go, first leaf down. Let's get some more water, change the color ever so slightly. And I am going to do another one. There we go. Maybe bring a little bit more pigment in with the tip of the brush and just add that. And that kind of seeps out naturally and you get a little wet into wet action. And then, okay. So, whoops. You make one mistake and then it's just a domino effect. So let me pick that up. I have a bunch of graphite on my hand and it's staining the page, so watch out for that. Normally I would wash my hands in between the transfer and the painting process, because if you get that dirty dark hand and then you rest your hand on the page, it's just a bit messy, isn't it? So let me... Now I need to clean my hand.
If you have time, a lot of people are asking about the difference between pans and tubes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good question.
And like which you prefer. Some people seem to think tubes are a little bit more difficult to mix.
Okay, so those are great questions. Let's talk for a sec while I clean my hand. Whoops, wrong way. Hello. So Chris was just saying we got a lot of questions about the difference between pans or discs or cakes or whatever you call these little guys right here, and watercolor tubes, which I don't use that often. I really like the watercolor pans. They're just so simple. And you know, actually something I meant to reiterate at the start of this video is that, remember, like, I'm not a professional. I have just taken art through high school, but beyond that, I'm self-taught. And like I've said in a bunch of videos, I don't think of myself as a teacher so much as an encourager. Like on this channel, you're never going to find color charts and pigment names and brush types. I try to just give you enough info that you can get going and get painting, because just personally, sometimes when I take out a library book on painting and it's all this info, the info can just be sometimes a little overwhelming, a little intimidating. And so this is all about just getting you painting, because you don't need to be a fine art master to enjoy painting on a Saturday. So, said my piece. So for that reason, I like the pans, because I just find they're so, okay, they're portable, they're easy to use, they're sort of no muss, no fuss, they tend to be cheaper. And I've had a lot of people express to me that they find when you're just beginning, pans are just so much easier to sort of deal with, to work with. One thing with the tubes is that I think sort of what you can do is get tubes, get a large palette, and put all the paint into the palette, and then you let it dry. Like you'll let the tube paints actually settle into the palette. So in that way, working with tubes, you're almost creating your own pans, if that makes sense. But tubes just tend to be a little more expensive for the quality, whereas pans, you can get a pretty good quality at a bit of a better price, and just so accessible and so easy to start with. So, okay, hand is clean, questions answered, hopefully answered. Remember, I do have a watercolor e-course if you're interested, and we've put it on sale right now just because everybody's home. It's on my website, shadacampbell.com. So there you go, little shameless plug, but I cover all of this stuff in that course, but it's still very like casual and fun. And yeah, okay, so let's go back to our other screen, and we will get some painting done. Okay, so I'll get a little more green on my brush.
A quick question.
Yeah.
The brush you use to brush things off your table, it's just a big wash.
Oh, the brush I used, yeah, it's just a mop brush. I think I just picked it up at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or something. It's just like a big cheap, and it, you know, the only key here is I don't use that brush for anything else. So it's always, I know that it's clean. It's just my eraser brush. One thing I'll do sometimes is paint half a leaf, and then with a very light paint or almost just water, I'll come in and kind of work out the other half of that leaf. And we might go back and add a little more pigment to that. That'll give you a nice kind of natural watery look. Oops. I'm just gonna put myself back on the screen, but I'm gonna switch that. There we go, sorted it out again. Okay, let's do some more leaves. I mean, this is the nice thing about doing your plan. If you plan out the piece and then you mix up your paint, by the time you're painting, at least for me, it gives me a confidence. Like, okay, I've already, you know, mixed up the colors I want to use and I've tested them out. I've got the design that I'm happy with. Because sometimes it's a little scary to just put paintbrush to page without any plan. And I know paper's quite expensive, so there's always that like, oh, I don't want to waste the paper. That's kind of pretty. If you get too much water, just dry your brush real quick, and then you can come back in with that brush and it acts like an eraser and it will sop up the pigment. So that's a good little trick.
Help me, I'm underwater. I've asked a couple times about the Winsor Newton Cotmans, if you think they're good.
The Winsor & Newton Cotmans.
You use those, right?
Yes, I've used those and I think they're good. Yes, definitely. And the price jump from the Cotman series, which is kind of like the Winsor & Newton student quality, to the Winsor & Newton artist quality is pretty significant. And the Cotmans, you know, the pigment quality is not as good. It's just not as good, but it is very good still. So I would say they are a great place to start. And then if you're painting a lot, if you're selling your work especially, then you could invest in the Winsor & Newton artist quality. But the Cotman series is very good. And you know, on the channel, like you see me using Derwent pans, the Muño, those are all like in the same sort of level as the Cotman, maybe even not as good. And I'm always pleased. I'm pleased with the pigment quality and the way the paints perform. Okay, so what do we have? We've got maybe one more leaf here. Let's just mix the color up. Messy mixing as usual, and we'll just use the belly of the brush, sweep it across the page. This one I have to be a little bit careful because I'm going around a flower petal, but that looks good. And sometimes it's nice to leave a little bit of negative space as well. Just a little white space. It can be random. It doesn't need to mean anything. Just an area that is unpainted. It can be nice. It can be good. Okay, so those are our green leaves. Let's quickly mix up a little bit of a brown and we will do the stems. Ooh, that brown has a lot of red in it. That is a very red brown. What I'm going to do, because I don't really like how red that is I always kind of like mixing purple in with my brown because I just like the way that purple darkens brown. But because this one is so red, I will also have to mix in some yellow. Now we're getting somewhere. If you're asking about the brush sizes, I'm using a size 3 right now, and I think I have a size 2 on hand as well. Brush sizes are not always standard though, so I know it can be a bit of a pain. Sometimes I'll get brushes from Australia or Europe and I'm like, these sizes are totally different. So you can kind of get a sense. As I was saying at the beginning, I like a smaller brush. Like a lot of watercolor artists, I find I'll see them using quite a large round brush that does come to a fine point. And I've just never gotten super comfortable with that. So I always tend to use quite a small brush. Not like the super delicate spotter type brushes, but still fairly small. Okay, pretty happy with the brown I've mixed up. Remember, if you've got some scrap paper, test out that color. Is that the color that you are looking for? And just get it right before it goes on. There we go. Whoops, see that red brown is so red. Okay. I just saw a good question. Do you stick with rounds or do you have a mix? I'm assuming you mean the brushes, and for the most part I just use my pointed round brushes. Yeah, I don't even know what else I might have a flat brush. I probably have a couple mop brushes somewhere. But
filberts.
Maybe a filbert, yeah, which is that one with the kind of curved brush head. But for the most part, I just find that I do most everything with the pointed round brushes. And that's because, like we've shown before, you can do this really delicate area like a little branch, or you can do a larger area like a leaf. And I've done this painting at this point just with the one number 3 round brush. So the pointed round, it's just a great tool because you're not constantly having to switch back and forth. Also with the pointed round brush, the belly of the brush is large, so it holds a lot of moisture, so you're not constantly having to go back to the palette either, and that's nice when you're painting. And again, this has to do with me just wanting to paint for fun and not wanting to have like a whole bunch of complicated tools. And so yeah, I try to do less with more, or wait, that's wrong. Try to do more with less. That's my motto. Okay. So I'm just carefully putting those stems in, filling that little bit of brown. If you're not comfortable with this level of detail, I would recommend switch to a smaller brush or just do the stems in green so that they blend right into the leaves, right? So that's just going to be easier. I'm mixing a little purple in, and then I'm going, that purple has now darkened my brown, and I am taking that darker brown and I am just adding it in some spots to darken the branch.
Time for a question.
Yeah, time for a question.
Elizabeth Eddy asked, do you ever use your paint straight out of the pans? I'm just starting out with watercolor.
Sometimes. I sometimes use the paint straight out of the pans. I mean, this Derwent set, I really like the colors. Like that magenta is a really beautiful pink, so there's certainly nothing wrong with that. There's no reason that you need to mix up all your own colors. I used to think it was like best practice to do that, and that's kind of the stuff I'm trying to break down now. Like if you are more comfortable just using the paints out of the pan, then do that. I like mixing mine up, but I got a Muño set of 48 pans. It has a huge color selection, so some of the greens are really beautiful and you don't need to change them up at all. So it just depends. In this set, these greens are so vibrant and bright, so I always tend to mix red or brown in to mute them. But in my Muño set, I have some greens that look like this, so I won't change them. So yes, freedom painting. If you want to mix, mix. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Chris is laughing at me.
I love it.
A little bit. Okay, so let's go back to our pink here. I am going to grab some of that. I might mix just a little bit more white in. I want a really light, delicate color. And let's start. You know what, actually though? because this is such a delicate color, I think I will, you probably can't even really see this, but I probably will need to erase this a little bit. Otherwise, it's just going to come right through the paint and I'll never get rid of it. Carefully brushing that away. I've definitely blown on my art before to get rid of eraser dust and spit right on it. So that's when I started using the brush. But it's hard to not blow on it. It's such a reflex. Okay, so let's pick up some of that really light pink. And even though it is really hard to see, I try to do kind of one petal at a time. And I'm going to start with the side one there. Again, look what you can do with the brush. We just used this round brush for this delicate stem, and now we're using it, you know, to do these larger petals. And you're just going to pull that brush across the page, add a bit of pressure. Use the tip of the brush to refine the shape of the petal, so to get it looking just the way you want. Maybe add a little more pigment near the center. I think that's looking good. If you need to rotate your paper at all, do whatever you need to do. I'm going to kind of pull that brush towards me a little bit. There we go. And we'll just continue filling in each leaf. Now, sometimes when you're painting like this, where you already have a plan and you have a design, you end up kind of just painting it as if it's a coloring book, you know, where you're not thinking as much about your brush strokes, but you're thinking about filling in an area, and that's okay, but just try not to overwork the paint too much. Like once it's on that paper, kind of leave it alone, and that's when you get that beautiful settling. And you get that variation in the color, like you can see on that petal there. It's kind of settled a bit darker at the base, and I think that can be quite pretty, and that's sort of the magic of watercolor. So, all right, let's fill in this petal. I'm just doing everything really light because then we can add more shading afterwards. So if you go too dark, there's really no going back. So I like to always keep things really light. I think I need a little more petal right there. And we'll kind of just let that one dry at this point, and we can work on the next one. Natalie was just asking if I plan to do a more botanically accurate flowers. I just like to make stuff up as I go along, but I do have a book that I have been using, and it's a good book all about different flowers and their colors, and so I use that as a reference. But I also just, if I'm painting poppies and they have like tiny little ugly scraggly leaves, I might just change it up. But for these ones, I'm basing this kind of on like a magnolia almost, that has this big, that has like a dark stem, big green leaves. But it could also be a rose. Pretty loose. Okay, so I'm mixing in a little more pigment, as you can see. And I just don't want it to get too dark, but I do want it to be a slightly different color than this one. I'm still going to mix white in because I like the sort of pastel tone that I get with white. Yeah, let me get the book. I just have to get up, but this is the reference book, the Flower Color Guide. So you can probably find that on Amazon. My mom gave me that for Christmas, and Derek and Michael Putnam. And actually, I was looking through it this morning. Oh, and here's kind of what I was looking at and sort of thinking, well, maybe when I'm doing that live stream, I'll do something kind of like that, which this is a peony with nice, very light petals, but I did mine with like a dark stem. So I always do take that creative license. Okay, all right. Let's
There's
go.
also a bit of a conversation going on about what's more important, paper, brushes, or paint. Like if you were to order them. So as you go along, if you want to cover that too.
Paper, okay, when it comes to paper,
Or which one's more
brushes,
important,
and
yeah.
paint. That's fun. That's like a fun question. I would say that the most important, and this is just my opinion, I would say the most important is paper. It's just, you could have the best paints in the world and you could learn to work with any kind of brush. But if you don't have good paper, it's not possible to get a good result. If you're just using a newsprint sketchbook, if you're using paper that's for markers, if you're using computer paper, it just won't work. Watercolor paper is special. It's very dense and very thick, and the water is able to seep into the fibers of the paper, and it's thick enough and dense enough that the paper won't buckle. Now, it will buckle if you use enough water, and that's why you would stretch it. The paper I'm using today is what we would call a block. So all of the paper, all of the sheets are sort of glued together with this gum, and so in that way this top piece is stretched so it cannot buckle or warp. So this is really good paper. You can stretch paper yourself, or if you're using 140 pound and you're just doing like a small floral painting like this, you likely won't need to stretch it. But if you were doing, say, a landscape where there's going to be a lot of washes and a lot of water, a lot of paint, you would need to. So, okay, so what was the question again? I'm kidding. I just ramble on. So, okay, so paper is the most important. Then I would say, just say it's a tie for your paints and your brushes. I like using good quality brushes. I think they make the process so much more enjoyable. When you have a good fine point, there's just no substitute for that. Like, I really believe you could use good quality paper, good quality brushes, and just like cheap paint. Now, you wouldn't want to sell that work because the pigment will fade and it might not look the same in 2 years as it did when you painted it. But for practicing, you could get some very inexpensive Artist Loft or Prang paints, and as long as you have good paper, like 140 pound proper cold pressed or hot pressed paper, and a nice pointed round brush, that is what I think. That's what I think. So invest in a good watercolor sketchbook or paper pad, and then you can always kind of collect brushes as you find them. You know, buy a good quality brush and take good care of it. It will hopefully last you a long time, and you know, a few months later you can pick up another one. In between, you can kind of get along with some cheaper synthetic brushes. One way to save your good brushes is to not use them for mixing up your paints, just because mixing can be very hard on your brushes. So yeah. Okay, I'm filling in my other petals. He's looking cute. We're doing good. Okay. I'm going to let those just dry a little bit. This one I think is almost dry. What I'll do is I'm going to mix up a darker color to use on these tiny leaves and to do some detail on these larger leaves. So I'm going to mix in a little bit of a darker green into my green. I'll pick up a little bit of brown. A little purple to darken it. Okay, and then what I want to do is just do a little bit of shading on these leaves. And I just want to add like some random splotches to make it appear a bit darker. So I'll do that. And maybe we'll put a little bit of darker green here and here.
I could describe you in one word. Cool and funny, awesome, special, nice, and curious.
Hey, Google. Stop. Google has a mind of its own, clearly. I wonder what I said to get her going.
Oh, who knows?
Who knows?
And plug her if she keeps going.
Okay, there we go. Just did a little bit of extra shading with my dark green. Maybe we'll put a little on here as well. Oops, sorry, my head kind of gets in there. Hi Omni, hi Ami. What's my favorite color? I would say my favorite color is, probably pink. That's my favorite color to
It's not warm gray.
wear. But my favorite is gray.
Warm gray.
Warm gray. Obviously
I think
warm
everybody-
gray. Everyone knows it's warm gray. But as for real colors, it would be pink. Okay, so now we added a little bit of shading to some of our leaves, just super, super random. And let's see. I'm just picking up, I'm making like a super dark green color. And I'm going to use that to do like some simple veining on some of these leaves.
If you need questions, I have something set aside.
Yeah, let's take another question. I'm gonna grab a smaller brush.
This one's from a little while back, but
Yep.
Marta asked, is there a reason why you start with the leaves rather than the flowers?
No. I think I just started with the leaves today because I'm more confident with the leaves. So it just gives me a good place to start where I can get something done that I feel good about. And that's something I talk about a lot on YouTube. It's just like, do whatever you need to do to get into the piece. And sometimes just doing something that I'm confident with, it just makes me like feel confident to continue with the rest of the piece. So that's why I started with the leaves. But yesterday I was working on a piece on my own, and I did start with the flowers because I was like, if I screw up these flowers, I don't want to have already spent a lot of time. So it's just totally personal preference. You got another question there, Boo?
Yep. Okay. What do we got? Paramit asked, is there any order to painting from dark to light colors or the other way around?
With watercolor, it's usually best to go from light to dark. Like I was saying, the leaves and the petals are a great example of this. We started with just this really light green, then we did this darker shading. Now we're going to come with the darkest color of all. I got way too much paint on my brush. And we're just going to do like a little bit of detail, like add some of these little lines. So I'm building up my color because if you go super dark, there's just no getting rid of it with watercolors.
Yeah.
You could maybe try, lifting a bit of paint, but for the most part, you want to go light.
So you can always make it darker.
You can always make it darker, yeah. That's a good way of putting it, but you can't make it lighter.
Oh, someone asked if I watercolor.
Chris, do you watercolor?
No. No.
But Chris has many talents.
Many talents, but painting is not one.
He never wants to paint with me, but he does knit with me. In fact, he taught me how to knit, so there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. I might flip this upside down and we'll just kind of make some messy lines. There we go. All right. Now you can see how long a video it would take to film. It gets a little tedious, I think, in the middle, but this is it's kind of a fun way to see like how long this really takes me, because I know in the videos it's like, boom, it's done, there, I did it. But it's just like, it does take me a long time to work through a piece, and I think that's normal. There's no like prize for painting super fast or anything like that. Okie dokie. So at this point, I'm pretty happy with the way those leaves are looking. Because you're working from light to dark, you can always add more shading if you want to, or you feel like you need it. And the flowers are fairly light at this point. So what I will do now is I'm going to use this small brush with my darker pink here, and I'm going to do a bit of shading. Now you can kind of see how the petals are laid out. And what we'll do is anywhere where the petals meet, like in here, we can add a little bit of a darker color, and it just makes it look like there's a bit of shadow there. I tend not to get too detailed, but a little bit of shading can make those petals kind of pop. And we might put a little bit of a darker color near the center. That will help the flower look like it's a little bit more concave, like the light isn't quite hitting in the middle quite as readily as it's hitting the outer part of those petals. With a wet brush, I might just bleed that out a little bit. Looking kind of pretty. Let's do the same thing for this one. Little bit of shading. Maybe just add a little touch of darker color. It can be pretty random, a little messy is okay. Something like that. I like that. I like how that looks. And yeah, I'm going to mix up the color that I'm going to add right for these smaller leaves. Too bad I don't know what color I'm going to mix up. What should I do?
Here's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually, you should be able to see it. Do you clean the palette after you mix the colors? Now you have red on the white and green and the yellow. Like you kind of got all your mixed colors.
Yeah. Do I clean the palette?
Yeah, like do you clean it, or do you, like, how do you proceed with that? Since your original colors are now mixed in with other colors, right?
I don't know what you mean. Like up here, you mean? Like if I run out of space?
Well, just because like the color you originally used for the flower would be mixed in with a new color now, so like do you clean up and restart, or?
No, I tend not to. I tend to just kind of keep going and keep working, but you could use a larger palette and kind of keep everything separate. I sort of just move through, and if the pink changes a bit, I figure, oh, well, it's fine, but I don't know if that answers the question or not, but.
Well, like with a natural form, you may not have to be as stringent, like strict.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I just kind of, because I'm just having a bit of fun, I get pretty free with it and tend to change things up. Okay, I think I'm going to mix like a dark purple, brownish color.
Oh!
We're going to do
They
this.
mean the, like there's actual paint on the yellow now, so do you like clean the palette when you're finished?
Yes.
When you're finished?
Yes, I will, yeah. When I'm finished, and like that's just bad practice, because what I should have done is had a clean brush when I picked up yellow, but sometimes when I get going, I just like get painting and I get messy, but at the end, just taking a little water, it's nice when you start the next time not to have like a messy palette, so it just depends how fastidious I am being. But yeah, it's a good idea to clean them up. All right, let's pick up a little bit of our magenta here. Can you see that okay? And I'm mixing in a little bit of purple into that, a little more magenta. Clean that brush, pick up a little brown. Got a pretty nice color there. I like the look of that. Let's test that color out. Yeah, that's sort of pretty. Maybe it needs a bit more brown. That's kind of cool. Kind of a nice color. And I think it's a bit darker, so it would be something nice to use for these little guys. So For these ones, what I want to do is flip the book around. I'm using a really tiny little brush, and I'll just like sort of let the brush hit the page and form some leaf shapes. We'll do really tiny. Got too much paint on there. There we go. So these are just fun. Just do a really delicate little stem. I think that kind of looks cute. Not all of the stems need to connect or anything. It can just be pretty free. Get a little wild. Let's do this one. We'll just kind of do that little delicate stem. Can you see that okay? Yeah. And then just let that brush hit the page just a little more. Kind of fun. Just so you know, I'm just making this up as I go along. I did not plan this. I just thought I want to show you what it's like for me to just sit down and try something. You know, I did the plan on camera, so this is all, I'm just winging it. So this is me like just trying something out, going from the true start of a project through to the end in real time. I feel like it needs a little.
I've got 2 questions for you.
Yeah, hit me.
First and foremost, what weight is the watercolor paper? Are you using 140 pound?
140 pound, yeah.
Yeah, which is what you usually use.
Yeah.
And then someone, I'm sorry, I lost the comment. Maria is asking, when do you know when the piece is done? Like, how do you know when you're finished? And then some other people were saying, yeah, like it's hard to know when to
it can
stop.
It can be hard to know when to stop. I think that comes with time and confidence and just saying like, okay, I'm good with this. This is what I planned. And I think that's just one more reason it's good to have that plan. Like we started with a drawing. This is what was on the drawing. So once it's all kind of, you know, on the page, then it's kind of, I think having a plan makes it easier to be like, okay, I did what I set out to do. I was going to paint 2 flowers surrounded by leaves. The purple leaves are kind of weird, but whatever, it's okay. I tend to be looking for things like balance, and it's always nice to step back from it for a minute and kind of say, like, give it a second, go make a cup of tea. You can look at your painting in a mirror. Sometimes seeing it in reverse can show you that, like, oh, I put so many more leaves on the right-hand side because it was easier for me to paint on the right-hand side or something like that. So sometimes just taking a moment away from it or looking at it in reverse can be helpful, and definitely starting with a plan so that you know, like, okay, my plan is that I'm painting 2 flowers with these leaves, and when that's done, it's done. This one is getting a little strange. To be honest, like I said, I'm just making it up as I go along, and what I see right now is that this part looks kind of more realistic, and then I did something like super loose and unrealistic for the smaller leaves. So yeah, just being honest, I'm not super in love with that, but that's okay. I do a lot of paintings on the weekends that I'm not in love with, a lot of half-finished pieces, but I never feel bad about it. Like, it's just, I listen to a podcast or some music, and I enjoy the time that I spend painting, and often one half-finished piece leads me to a better piece in the future, or it gives me an idea, sparks an idea for a piece to come. Okay, so the last thing that I want to do is just to fill in the stamens, the centers of these flowers. I'm going to mix up like a nice sort of golden yellow. I'll start with the yellow that's in the palette, and then I'll probably just mix in some of my brown that I had already mixed up. Maybe a bit of the reddish brown that's on the palette. Oh, you know what? We should do another little giveaway.
Okay.
Okay.
We can close submissions for the album.
Okay,
I've got
Chris,
I don't know if I got the first person who said the names because they came in really fast, but I do have
a good
some
amount of
names,
names,
yeah,
and then we'll choose.
Yeah, do you want to choose?
No, we'll choose at the end.
We'll
I'm
choose at the
almost done.
Okay.
But we've got some like fun washi tape to give away. And what would be like a good question? Whoever can name, what was the flower that we did for the April plan with me? Whoever can name that one first. The April birth flower that we did in the Friday video. And I've got a set of washi tape that you can use for journaling. And that's it there. Ta-da! So
the first person?
yeah, first person.
This time 100% I'm going to catch them.
Okay, Chris will catch you when you comment. Okay, I'm going to put a little more yellow in there.
For the April?
Yeah, for April. Chris needs to know what it is. It feels like last week was a long time ago. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so let me grab...
I did actually catch the first person.
You got it? Alright, nice. Nice work. Do you want to tell me who won the washi tape?
Sure, yeah. So the winner of the washi tape is Sue... again, apologies if I don't pronounce this properly. Sue Griot.
Okay.
You
Sue, you have won the washi tape. So you can email me with your address and we'll send that as soon as possible. Okay, and
the email should be in the description, but if it's not, it's in the channel about page.
Yes. Okay, let's finish up with some little stamen. Check the color there. I'm happy with that. Sort of a browny yellow, not too bright, which is I think good. I've got a really small brush. This is a number, it's worn right off, but I think it's a number 1. And I'm just going to do some like small vertical kind of messy brush strokes. I'm just winging it today. Alright, that's kind of cool. This one I may have to darken it and use like a more browny color so that it stands out. But I'm just going to do the same idea with these messy vertical brush strokes and just color in that area. Pretty happy with that, although I think this one will need to be darker, otherwise it's going to maybe not look the most natural. There we go. Okay, I'm going to let that dry for a second. I'm going to fix up those stamens a little bit, but other than that, I think this piece is almost pretty much done. I'm pretty feeling like it's coming to a close. I wouldn't say I'm like 1000% happy with that, but I'm painting live, sharing my process. And this is also a new set for me, but I do really like the colors in here, but it's going to take me a minute to kind of get to know it.
It's a number 2 set.
Number 2 Derwent set, yeah. We can always put that in the description as well if you're looking for the same.
I put it in the comments.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, because it is a good quality
it's the
set.
Derwent Inktense Travel Set number 2.
Yes. Yeah. You got it.
Everybody, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're looking for that, oh man, this second stamen is like, it's cool. Okay, I think I'm pretty much done with my flowers. I had fun starting this on camera. I mean, what time is it? Like we started, it's 3:15.
3 Eastern.
Right, 3:15. We're an hour ahead of Eastern, but yeah, so this took about an hour. I think once my rambling was done, from plan to color mixing, transferring it, and as I said, I don't want to be too hard on myself, but I would probably take another crack at this if it was for something specific. But I like the way the forms came out. I just think I could have. I would work on my colors because some of those colors are still maybe a little brighter than I normally like to have. I'll show you what I was working on. That's some paintings here. This is stuff we've done on the channel. This one, this is a one that I did, and that will be coming up on the YouTube channel early next month. So that one, you'll look for that. These anemones you can find on the channel. This is just some of the recent stuff I've done. This leafy greens one, this will be part of our April YouTube content, or actually this might be even end of March YouTube content, so that's coming up. As I said, we are not stopping the YouTube videos. Chris and I are happy to still be putting out lots of content, and we really want to make sure that we're here for you guys, and that we are, you know, just in some way bringing you a little bit of comfort and inspiration during this time. So there will still be YouTube videos every Tuesday and Friday, and maybe next week we'll do another live stream if we're all still stuck inside. And yes, we have our giveaway winners. Let's talk about the owl's name. Let's throw some names around.
Okay, I did not realize that the names would come in this quickly. So if I did, if I didn't get the first person to say the name, I apologize. This is our first time doing this. So.
Yeah.
But some of the ones that I pulled out was Poyo in Finnish is owl.
Oh, that's cute.
That's cute, right?
Poyo, I like that.
Bruce Hornsby.
Bruce Hornsby, that's good.
I thought that was pretty good. Very popular was Molly.
Molly the owl.
Yeah. There was one mentioned Squeezy.
Squeezy.
I thought that was super cute.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Oliver, as in Oliver, but owl.
Oliver. Good. It's like a name that's a pun almost. I like that.
Weebles.
Weebles, cute.
Okay, so Fama Ronana,
Yeah.
which is creative in Malagasy.
Whoa.
Which you were creative to make her. Right?
That's cool.
So, and then the last one I took down. Oh, no. I've got a bunch more. Woolly.
Woolly is good. That's
a good one.
That fits.
From Lily Pond. If you call your owl, in Spanish, bujo.
Bujo? What's that mean?
Owl.
Oh, owl. Okay, got it.
Albert Einstein.
Oh, Albert. Yeah, that's good.
And then the last one I pulled out was, could be Mr. Perfectly Imperfect, and call him Impy for short.
Oh,
right? Impy
what?
for Perfectly Imperfect.
Impy. I think it's between Impy and Squeezy.
Impy and Squeezy. Well, you get to choose. So.
Oh, that's tough. That's a tough one. Okay, I think. Ooh.
I like Albert Einstein.
Oh yeah, Albert.
Yeah.
Albert was good.
That's a toss-up.
Oliver,
yeah. They're all really good
These
names.
are very creative.
Yeah.
Very creative names. Okay, I think we should probably go with Squeezy. I really like that one.
You're going with Squeezy?
I'm going with Squeezy.
Okay, so the name I have for Squeezy is Marta Salinas Sweetie.
Okay, Marta.
Marta, you have won.
Marta, you have won the prize pack. Well, first of all, you've won the honor of naming this fatty. And we will mail you, in return for your creative naming, some paper, some water brushes, and some paints. So for all the giveaway winners, we're going to post the giveaway winners' names in the description when we post this video, but please email us so we can send your prizes, because we want to get those to you. Yeah. I have so many good names, so many good Kevin. So many good names.
I like that, yeah. I mean, there was a ton of good names.
Yeah, I saw some really good ones going by.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So email us at...
Yeah, email us. We'll send your prize. Don't forget, there is that coloring... Can you pass me that coloring page? I think it just fell off the end of the table
for sure.
in my big mess. We've got 3 prizes to send. Head over to my Instagram at Shada Campbell, because I'm going to, in the next hour, post another giveaway on there. And then this coloring page is just one other little thing that I prepared to you know, just say I'm thinking of you guys, and it's just one more little thing that you can do to keep busy during these times and keep positive. So this is the Flowers of the Year coloring page, and that is available on Patreon, and it is available for everyone. You don't have to be a patron. It's there. It's a freebie. And if you like this live stream, we do a live art Q&A, fun time painting, hangout, sesh every month on Patreon, and that is part of our $10 tier. So you get all the Patreon bonus content, you get ad-free videos, and you get access to a monthly live stream hangout, and that is on the last Thursday of every month at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is part of our Patreon content. So just a thought, but yeah, I really enjoyed doing this, and as I said, if we're all stuck inside again next week, which we may well be, then we'll probably do this again.
Yeah, a public one.
Yeah, but Chris will do it.
Yeah, I'll be painting. You can all see Chris paint.
All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by, and thanks for all the sweet comments. I was trying to read as many as I could, and I know Chris saw a lot of really sweet words go by, and so it's just really cool that this community is so supportive and kind, and yeah, we just love you guys. Yeah, okay, sending love from Canada. Stay safe. I hope that you are well, and I hope that your family is well, and just try to take a little time for yourself to be creative, or do whatever you need to do to you know, just to stay grounded and stay happy as can be. All right, I'm rambling again. I'm going to say goodbye, and I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is Tuesday with a new YouTube video. So look for tomorrow. We're doing spring flowers. It's a really good video, if I do say so. So